Hi everyone, how you going? Sam Mackay here. I thought we'd do something a bit different today. We currently, and if you're not aware, have a new initiative happening at Enterprise DNA called Power BI Challenges. And what I thought to do I want to submit a report into the challenge for this particular one. So Power BI Challenge 3. And I thought, why don't I, whilst I'm building it up, why don't I record what I'm actually doing? And I can talk through some of the ways I think about things. I can also just talk through my methodology. I can show you lots of different tools and features that we can use inside of Enterprise DNA, inside of our platform to learn about specific things. So I thought that it would just be a good opportunity to walk you through it. I honestly don't know how long this is going to take, so it could be a relatively long video, but I just want to show you just some core things that I would do around this, so you can not only see how I use Power BI, but just generally also how I think about data and analysis and ways that you can showcase it inside of Power BI. So why don't we, and I guess just before we get going, this is just me recording as I go, right? So there may be some, it won't be, I would say, a perfect execution of a video here, because this is just me thinking aloud and just talking aloud as I work, right? So sometimes I might have to backtrack, sometimes I might have some small oversights, but hopefully you can see past that, and can just just get exposure to how I do things, right? My workflow around Power BI development. So what is the challenge? So we have our challenges bi-weekly, and so if you want to check them out, all you have to do is come to the Enterprise DNA forum. If you actually want to submit, you do have to be a member. You do have to actually have membership and have access to the forum, but there's absolutely nothing stopping you from seeing the challenge and downloading it and participating yourself. Absolutely no problem with that. And if you want to get hold of membership, there's always the Earner membership, which the Earner membership program, we have some scholarships, we have some internships. So there's many ways for you to get involved if you don't actually have a core like a real membership at the moment. Okay, but we have a category called Power BI Challenges, and we're really going to build this up, right? We want this to be the go-to challenge for Power BI users anywhere around the world, right? And we're going to make it as real world and practical as we possibly can. So we've got Power BI Challenge 3 here. If you want to watch, review some of the historic ones, you can very, very easily. And you'll see that we had a huge amount of activity. It's actually probably been the most active thing on our forum since its inception. So it's pretty exciting how big this is actually going to be. So we've already actually had some submissions, and I'm sure there'll be way more by the time this video actually gets out there, or we put the video on our YouTube channel. But let's just talk through the scenario, right? So I'll just actually make sure my zoom is working. Yep, and also I can zoom in this way too. Okay, so what's the brief? Basically, we've got some HR data, and we are doing some analysis for the HR manager, and they need to review the internal consultations that are taking place within an organization, so around policy changes. They have an HR system which contains all this data. So obviously this data has been put into the system somehow. And once the current process is that once management decide that there is going to be a change to any policy, then they create a consultation within this HR system, assigning a window to hold interviews with employees. Okay. The company policy is that every employee will be interviewed twice regarding the change. The outcome of each interview is recorded. Unfortunately, the system doesn't have a reporting suite. James has managed to get the data out of the system with some help of IT, but not sure what to do next. He said he is looking to report back to his seniors around the outcomes of these interviews and what the reception has been towards a consultation. James is also keen to establish a change of outcomes between the two interviews and any other metrics that you feel are key to this report. Okay, cool. So I've downloaded the data. Let's have a look at the data here. Okay, and we'll review what we can potentially do here, and I'll talk through what I think we could possibly do. So basically, we have every employee or a list of employees here. Employee name, their position, their consultation. And remember, so every time there is a consultation, they like to have 2 interviews, right? And so you'll see here that we've got the consultation window, and then we've got when the first interview happened per employee, and then who did the interview, and then what was the outcome. And I think this is quite important because they want to see, okay, what is the outcome of a specific round of interviews, and then we have the second round of interviews, and so what happened after that. So to me, this is the sort of the key information, right? Is that we need to understand over time how the communication was received by employees. Okay, and there's lots of interesting ways that we can slice and dice this. Like obviously we've got dates that we need to manage, and we've got a lot of dates, so we're gonna have to do something quite interesting there. We've also got like employee position that we could slice on, region, like where they actually based, consultation name. So I believe there's 5 consultations. So if I scroll down, so we've got so there's 5. And then if we scroll up here, there's well, actually I can just go down to this. So we've got health, pay policy, performance, safety, and working hours. These are all the consultations, what are deemed consultations. So this is quite an interesting. I mean, to be honest, I have not actually done that much analysis on something this unique. So it is quite unique, right? But very interesting, and something that you probably capture this data in a system within an organization, and it's highly unlikely there is some reporting embedded into an app that would actually grab this information, right? And so this is where Power BI is just awesome. If you can get the data out into, say, Excel like this, then Power BI can create some amazing analysis for you pretty quickly with this sort of data. Okay, so let's jump into it. Let's just jump into Power BI now. And so obviously I'm going to go to the transform data area, the query editor here, and I'm going to go and grab. Actually, I need to save this first of all. Just make sure I save it in the right area. I have my own Power BI challenges folder, which I save it into. So I'm going to call this HR Data Insights. Okay, and then we need to obviously delete the Excel file before we can bring it in. So I'll just cancel that. Okay, and then I'm just going to go new source up here, right? And then go Excel, because it's just simply an Excel already nicely in a table for us as well. So very, very easy. And you'll see that I'll actually work through, and you'll see here that obviously the names here aren't that great, but that's okay. I'm just going to select the table one, because you see here we've got the table and we've also got the worksheet, but table is what you want to go for generally. And then I'm going to bring that in. So there's a little bit of cleanup that we're going to have to do here. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to jump to the forum. And so I'm just going to show you where I can get my date table, right? Because the date table is just so important here, because we've got so many dates to work across. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just come and find the category down here, M-code showcase. So this is where I want you to go if you want to get a really high quality, or basically the best date table anywhere is located here in the M-code showcase. Okay. And this one here, extended date table. So click on that. This has been created by Melissa, one of the enterprise DNA experts. And so you'll see here that a lot of people are actually using this, and I always reference this now as the one to go to. So I used to always go to a text file, but now I just come to the forum because it's this amazing code is embedded into the forum. And so I'm just going to copy this, come back to Power BI, and then go new source, blank query, and then go advanced editor, and then paste it in over the top here. Okay, and then I think I'm just going to do 2 years here. So I'm going to do 1st of the 1st, and then I'm going to do 31st of the 12th. And my I'll just do my financial year as July 7. And there's some other things that you can do here as well. So this actually looks quite new. Workday start number, which is cool. Okay, so I'm just going to go, I'll just go 1. There's many other things you can do here. And if you check out Enterprise DNA TV, Melissa has actually created a number of videos on how to use this code. Highly recommend reviewing those if you want to understand how to work in more detail with this date table, because you can actually add holidays as well. So I'm just going to change that to dates. Okay, and I'm going to call this consultation data. Okay, and then I can just, I don't think that we've got to do too much in here just by looking at it. So I'm just going to move this into my data model group. Yeah, I honestly don't think we're going to have to do anything too complex here, which is good. I'm going to create a new group here and call this parameter query. Okay, and then we can move these around. Okay, great. So a couple of things that I would maybe clean up here. Let's have a look. So we want to make sure that our data is optimized, right? That's ultimately what we want to do all the time. Is we want in here in the query editor, we need it to be totally optimized for what we are trying to achieve. And to be honest, it's looking pretty good. It is actually looking pretty good. I mean, I don't think we need to make too many different changes here. One thing that I see here that is a bit annoying is that west and south aren't formatted the same as east and north. So, I mean, we can do a really quick transform here where, does it have a proper format? No, it doesn't. Capitalize each word. Let's have a look what this one does. Ah, there we go. Okay, so that basically does the proper format for you. So I just right click on that, and you see here that it brought that transformation into the query editor there, and now that's all clean. And the reason why I did that is because I don't want to have to make this change later on, and I want, when I drag this dimension into my report, like when I'm creating a visualization, I want to make sure that it's already set up. I don't need to do any sort of customizations to individual parts of a column, or individual results in a column, or say my legend, or my my data labels, for example. Okay, so honestly, by looking at this, I think there's not too much other things we need to do, which is great. So the data's pretty good already. There could be a lot, in something that you're dealing with, there could be a lot more issues, or a lot more cleanups that you want to make. There may be some other things that we need to review, but at the moment, the biggest issue I see here, or the biggest challenge really within the Power BI challenge, is dealing with these multiple dates, right? And trying to understand, what are we going to showcase across time here? What do we want to showcase? And we've got a date here. We've got, so 1, 2, 3, 4. How many dates have we got? Is that 4 dates? So we've got 4 dates that we need to manage with our date table. Now you might think that, well, you might need to create multiple date tables here. I believe we can probably do this with only one date table, and we're just going to use inactive relationships to join all of these dates up to the date table. Okay, so that's probably how we're going to do it. So let's just go close and apply here, and we might just have to have a play around here before just with our formulas and with our visualizations, before we really sort of drill down into something that is or just like a format for our report, really. Okay, so I'm going to jump. So we've brought everything in now, and I'm just going to save it first, and then I'm going to create my simple model here. And obviously this is relatively simple, isn't it? We've only got 2 tables, and so I'm just going to put them, I'm going to still follow my waterfall technique, but basically I'm just going to put them like this. And then I'm going to start linking up the date. So I've got first interview date here. we'll do this first, and then I'll talk about something else that we could have done. So I've got second interview date. So to basically just want to find all the dates: consultation end date, consultation start date. So okay, good. So we've got 4. So I'm also just going to click on, because you'll see here that Power BI always brings in one active relationship, and what I want to do is I want these all to be inactive. I'm going to turn them on. I'm going to turn on the ones that I want to turn on with formula, right? And we're going to use the use relationship function. So the use relationship function enables us to basically turn on an inactive relationship within our formula. Okay. So this is it. I mean, this on first look, I mean, I might make revisions later on, but on first look, this is kind of what I think we need to do. One other thing that I thought we could maybe have a look at, and this is basically a modeling technique which I use quite often. So let's just, I'm not sure why this data isn't. Okay, cool. Is if there was, say, anything of any columns which were similar, right? That say for instance, well, a perfect example actually is let's do it. I see one now that we could do. So so we can do something else here. We can do something else. What we could do here is, you see here that consultation ID and consultation name are basically the same. They're basically referencing the same thing. So we could break this out into a lookup table and say remove this column from here and just have the 5 consultation IDs and the consultation name next to them in a lookup table. And so I'm going to do just that. So what I'm first of all going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, right? I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this consultations. Okay. Then I'm going to select both of these columns and remove other columns. Okay. Then I'm going to come here and remove duplicates. And so you see here that now I've got a 5-row table, and I can come back into consultation data, and then I can delete this column. Because what I would ultimately do here, if I just change these around, so hopefully you're with me. And this is a really common thing that you can do with your fact tables, because consultation data is basically our fact table, right? Is whenever you see things that are basically a subcategory of what is in the fact table, where you've got multiple different columns about the same thing, then you can try, and what I would do is I would always try and look to summarize it here, and remember that you can always link back to the consultation data with the ID, because the ID is here and the ID is here. So you see here that the ID is basically referenced many times. Well, there's no need to reference the name many times as well, because you can put it into a lookup table. And so if I just go close and apply, and this is a way that you should always be thinking about how you set up your model, right? And so now I'm starting to get my waterfall my waterfall look to my model now, where I have my lookup tables at the top and my fact table down the bottom. Really simple and easy to understand, visualize in my mind. And then also I've optimized my fact table as well, because I got rid of a column with a whole lot of data that I don't actually need in my fact table now, because it's summarized up here. Okay. Right. Okay. So let's have a think. Let's have a think about some simple formulas that we can start creating, right? And this is what I usually do is I just quickly create my first measure group. And generally I call it key measures, because I want to create some simple measures to start off with, right? Just really simple measures. So let's have a think. So, I mean, the first one I thought we could do is probably calculate how many employees, right? So just using a distinct count measure. And so if I just come back here, I'm going to create a new measure inside of key measures. unique employees. And this is what I always do. I always come into my model and quickly create these simple measures, and that's what you should also be doing, right? You should also be just thinking, okay, what are the simplest things that I can actually, this is a distinct. Oh, what am I doing? It's because I can't put a table in there. Sorry, I just had a bit of a mind blank there. Basically what we want to do is we want to find the employee ID, right? I know another optimization we can make. We can make employee ID and optimize it. We can optimize that inside the query editor as well. Why don't we do that? I like doing these sort of things because I'm just like always thinking, how can I optimize my fact table, right? And so you see here that the employee name is linked to the employee ID. And so what we probably want to do here is duplicate again, and we could say employees. Oh, did I do the wrong one? Oh, I'm sorry. I did the wrong one. Delete. I'm going to duplicate this one here. Some of you might have seen me in the past do this thing called query staging, and you could do that as well, where you basically had the original data set as your staging query and then you build on top of it. So look, you honestly could do that. I just started off doing it one way here, and I'm just sort of putting a couple of band-aids over the top where I'm just duplicating it. But you know, hopefully you're with me and you know what I mean by this, by query staging. If you don't, check out the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Power BI, where I talk a little bit about it, and I've also talked about it in many other workshops that we've run through Enterprise DNA. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to again do something really similar here, right? And then I'm going to go remove duplicates, and so now we have only, what do we got? 158 rows now. So so it looks like 158 employees, unique employee IDs, and then I can change the name of this to employees. Okay, and then I can come to here, and again I can get rid of this, remove from here, because I can link it back to my employees, right? But via the ID. And so again, I've just optimized again this larger fact table, which has a lot more rows, and I can go back to I can submit it, and then come back to my model, and you'll see here that again I'm starting to build up my lookup tables again. So you know, if you've certainly viewed a lot of my material on the model here, you'll see here that I always say, you know, you want to aim for this waterfall of filters, right? And you'll see here that every single time, and I keep saying all the time that, you know, no matter what scenario you're dealing with, you should always be aiming for this sort of look in your model. It just simplifies things so much for yourself, and not just in terms of like functionality within Power BI, but just also understanding of like what's going on in here. Okay, and so I'm just going to delete this from here and finalize this as a measure group. Cool. Okay, so we've got this here. We've got some distinct count, unique employees, right? So already we can get something interesting going here. So we could. Oh, actually, did I employee position? I could have done that as well, actually. Could have done that as well. Let's do it. You're here to learn. We're all here to learn about how I do things, right? And so I'm going to. I could actually keep all of these, couldn't I? I could keep all of these because they're all unique to the employee. So I presume these aren't. The thing to recognize is that do these change over time? That's the thing to recognize. But my guesstimation is not. So say for instance we just have a look at, say, employee 1. Is it the same thing? Yeah, see, it's the same thing every time. So it's so great in here that you can just do simple filters like this, right? And just double check things. So you see here, it looks like these are always the same. Okay, so what we could do to optimize that table even more is we could, and this is what happens sometimes, like when you develop, you just realize things over time and you can go back and you can sort of fix them. And so I'm just going to get rid of all of those, and then I'm going to remove duplicates, right? And so now think about all of this data. Now we can actually get rid of here. I can come and remove these as well. And so now this particular table here is getting a lot thinner if you think about it, right? A lot thinner. I was just thinking another thing we could do is we could maybe even create a list of interviewers. That's another one we could do. We could actually try and get a list of each. Yes, we can do this. We can do this. Aha. Okay, cool. There's actually a lot more we could do here that I've just sort of discovered. So what we could do now is we could do this. Okay, so I'm going to actually get these interviewers into a lookup table as well, because that's if you think about it, another a lookup table. It's data of a similar nature. We have an ID for each, right? So we can get rid of some more data from this bigger table. So I'm going to duplicate consultation data here, and I'm going to call this interviewers. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along here and I'm going to select these two here. We probably want to append these actually, because we want to make sure that we don't say we had a whole range of people interview here, but then there was an interviewer that was on this list here, and they we're gonna try something. Okay, so I'm gonna go, and this is where again, like hopefully spending a bit of time here is helpful to learn. Is that there's just so many optimizations that you can make here, and it's so crucial for your Power BI development. Not enough time is spent here from all Power BI users, and I know this from the forum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these two here. Okay, and then I'm going to go remove other columns. Okay. Then from here, I'm going to call this. I'm going to go to new group. Supporting queries. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this as well. Okay. And I'm going to put this up here. Interviewers. Oh, no, I can't call it that just yet, actually. Group. Okay. Interviewers. Okay. Then here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it again, actually. Interviewers 1 and interviewers 2. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get this group of first interviewers, and then I'm going to get this group of second interviewers. Okay, and then I'm going to append these. Okay, so I'm going to click on this one here. I'm going to come up to append queries. So we want to append interviewers 1 to interviewers 2, right? Hold on a second. I think we've got to name them the same. Interviewer ID and interviewer name. Okay, now we're going to append. What if we double select these? Append queries, no. Okay, so just go append queries, so current to interviewers 1 to interviewers 2. Okay, cool. So now we've got the append, and then, so this, why are we doing this? Is because I wanted to create this one table of interviewers, right? And then I'm going to remove duplicates, and now we have all of our interviewers. Okay, cool. Okay, so now I can drag this down here, and then I'm going to disable the load on these, right? Disable the load, because we still want these in here, but we don't need them. And then think about, so now we don't actually need them in our model, okay? So they're still going to be part of our query editor, PowerQuery editor, but not part of our data model. And that's why I actually create these groups. That's why creating these groups is so essential, right? Because it just really makes things intuitive in terms of like what you should be looking at. Okay, and then the final thing that I can do is I guess I can come in here and now I can get rid of these, right? I can come in here and I can say remove this column and remove this column. Okay, because now I've got interview 1 and interviewer 2, I can link them up via that lookup table. Okay, so it does, there is a few tricky things here, but now that I'm working through it, because again we have to use inactive relationships, so it's going to be quite interesting. But think about this table now. Look at what this table looks like for me, and then I can where is it? Let's bring my interviewers in here. But I'm just taking out, basically the strategy I'm using is I'm just taking out the redundant data out of here, right? And now this particular table is a lot thinner, which is what I want. Okay, so interviewer ID, it's first interview ID. I'm going to drag that down there, and then I'll drag that there, and then I'm going to turn this into an inactive relationship as well. Okay, so this is starting to look a lot cleaner now, isn't it? We have our fact table. Well, we basically have our model with our lookup tables at the top. We've got dates, consultations, employees, interviewers. So these are all of the, if you think about back to if we go back to the forum, if I can find the actual I'll find the challenge. These are sort of the key things that were in the challenge, right? In our initial scenario that we were dealing with, we needed to work out, based on employees, how they felt from one interview to the next based on the consultation. And then we could also review who was actually doing the interview and did that actually matter. So a lot of good things that just initially occur to me as good pieces of analysis that we could do here, okay? And so I'm just setting it up, making this look nice and simple. And then if we just have one last look at our consultation data now, our fact table, this is far more summarized, right? We just have IDs. So we've got employee ID, consultation ID, interviewer ID, second interviewer ID, and then we've got the outcomes here. Okay, and then we've got some dates. Okay, and then they all obviously link back via these relationships to our model. Okay, so what else? What else can we... So I've got unique employees here, right? Now the thing to remember is that we obviously have a lot of inactive relationships here, okay? And so we need to account for these where necessary. So we can see how many employees at the moment. Really, the only one we can only filter it by a couple of things. One being, let's say, like the consultation. So we could say create a chart like this and grab the consultation name and see, well, basically it was the same amount of employees for each one. So it's not that good of an insight, really. We could also grab, say, the region, I believe, if we've got that. Oh no, that's because it's sitting within our employees table, isn't it? So we can go employee region, and so we can see here that we've got a breakdown of our employees per region. Okay, so let's have a think. Let's have a think about, okay, what are some of the other key things that we might want to show? We might want to show, and we'll come to this particular page here, the fact table. We might want to show, okay, when a consultation started and when it ended, maybe. So the formula pattern I think we're going to have to use here quite a lot is the events in progress pattern. And that pattern enables us to work with inactive relationships pretty effectively, which is great. And I want to show you another thing in our forum that has recently been added from a couple of the enterprise DNA experts as well, is we have a DAX patterns category now within our forum. So if you go to forum.enterprisedna.co, and I think it's at the bottom here, so you see DAX patterns. And what we're doing here is we're building up some threads around each important pattern that you can use from your within your models. And the great thing about this is if we click on, say, events in progress here, we can come in and copy. We can actually come in and copy the actual formulas because they've been embedded into this thread, and also details about it. So you'll see here that within the thread, and this was actually posted by Greg, one of the experts, Greg Phillips. And you'll see here that it has details on how to work with these inactive relationships with this particular formula pattern. And then if I scroll down here, you'll see that it is actually very well written out here, and quite a lot of detail with a lot of comments around how it actually works. Okay, and so what you can do is this: you can copy it. So I'm going to copy it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another measure here. This is just to show you how quickly you can actually use these. Okay, and I actually don't want all of this text, right? So I'm just going to take it out. Okay. And I apologize for that noise in the background if you can hear that. It's a little bit annoying. So there's still a little bit we need to do here though, right? Looks like someone's doing some drilling behind me, which is a bit annoying. Okay, so obviously this is not exactly what we need for right? We need to obviously create some calculations here that we can fit in here and reference the correct columns. And so we want to put in here. So I'm just going to push enter. It's going to be an error for a while, but that's okay. We can update that in a second. And so I've got consultation start date and consultation end date. But what do we actually want to show in between that? Well, probably we want to show how many interviews were done. Potentially, I think it's probably going to be every interviewer, but maybe that's what we want to see, like how many employees were actually interviewed. Okay, so we've already got that unique employees calculation there. So all we need to do is come in here and place that here, and then make some updates here. So I'm going to do the consultation start date here. Right, and this worked with inactive relationships. Okay, and then I'm going to go end date there, and I'm going to fix up this formatting as well because I don't love the formatting at the moment. So this should actually be okay as a formula now. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to show you how to use the DAX CleanUp tool, which is a tool that we've been spending a lot of time building up, and I highly recommend using it. You can navigate to it at the bottom of the forum or many other areas of our website, but you can just click on DAX CleanUp, and this is basically our DAX formatter, right? And this is what you want to be using to quickly get some good format with your formula. So I just copy that formula there, and then I go format. And it's giving me actually a similar look. But what I can do is I can improve this within the app here. Okay, I can go commit, and then I'm going to actually get rid of the spaces. I don't like the spaces there. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm going to edit it here, and I'm going to, okay, and then I'm going to commit, and then I'm going to copy that. Okay, and then that just cleans it up for me pretty quickly, right? Now, also I probably want to actually change this. Interviewed employees. Okay, so if I come in here and say I wanted to have a look at the consultation name, how many people did we actually interview over that time? No, I've got the wrong context, I'm sorry. What we want to do is we actually want to grab the date, don't we? So we want to grab the date here. And what this is going to do is it's going to show us if we create a chart like this. Okay, let's just have a think about why this wouldn't be working. And sometimes this happens, right? When you're working away, like basically, it looks like it's the same number every single time, but this should really be showing a lot more than this. Like if we turn this into a table, which I recommend as well, this should be showing every single date, like so. Why is that not showing every date? Is it because well, actually the time frame is quite small, isn't it? Aha, so sorry, this is actually right. It's just that it only is showing the actual time that this is open is only quite short. So these are actually multiple days within here. Yeah, so it's actually okay. So the formula is actually working, but the visualization itself isn't great, is it? It's not great. We'll leave it up there for now, and then we can improve on it later. But basically what it's showing here is it's showing the time period in which all of these consultations were done. Probably the best way to maybe showcase this is like this. So maybe we want to go consultation name. Actually, now that we think about it, the consultation start and end date could actually be in the consultations table, couldn't it? So why don't we go back and fix that up? Because really, if you think about it, the consultation ID here is the same. The start date and end date all align to the consultation ID. So really what we should be doing here is we should be getting rid of or we should be keeping these columns here. So I'm going to remove other columns. Just give me a second here. I got a bit of an issue. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so now I've got those columns as well, and I can remove my duplicates. Okay, so now I can actually make this table even thinner, which is pretty cool. So I can actually get rid of these as well. Okay, and then I can just go close and apply. So once again, more optimizations that I'm making here, which is absolutely fine. We will have an issue with that particular formula though. But basically working through that formula made me realize, is that insight actually, is it actually that good? Is it actually that good? And what might be better is if we have, say, a table which just lays out these details here, like so, and then say you wanted to actually look at a specific, I'm just trying to think of the flow of my report, right? Say I wanted to look at a specific consultation. Well, I can just click through this, and then that would hopefully place a filter down on this particular table, because the consultation ID is going to filter here on the fact table. What's going to happen is I can, now that I've got all this information up here in the consultations, when I go and place a filter here, it's going to flow down this relationship and then filter here, and that's going to enable me to say, change the results here. So hold on a second. I'm going to get rid of this for now. And this is what it's about, right? There's a little bit of trial and error when you work with these things, especially with data, which is a little bit different. And it's no different for me. Like, I have to have a play around, go down sort of one road for a little bit, and then come back, and because I realize that it's not actually optimal. And I just iterate all the time. But the great thing about Power BI, right, is like if we build a solid base and we build a solid core to our model like this, right? It's so easy to do this. None of your formulas really need to be that difficult. It can all be really set up in a really, really intuitive way, which is ultimately what we're aiming for, because we want there to be it to be easy for your reports and models to be used within your organization, also to be handed off to others who can build on top of what you've done. You want to be getting everyone up to these best practice, or to use these best practice methodologies is going to speed up and really scale what you're doing internally. Okay, so why is this one not filtering this one? Let's have a think. It's because its employee region is here. Still should be filtering it though, because this is unique employees. Let's have a think. Employee region, employee ID. Well, it's because I think it's the same grouping of employees every single time, isn't it? So there's not actually that big a difference. Every time you click, there's always the same grouping of employees in each different region, because every single employee, as we saw, every single employee is interviewed every single time here. Okay, so I guess let's have a play around and think about. I mean, I'm struggling to actually think of how many additional measures we actually need here. So let's have a think. So we've got our consultation data here. So let's have a look at. Let's grab some information. So we've got. What have we got? We've got first interview date we can use, okay, and we can then use first interview outcome, okay, and then I want to see if we can bring in, say, our employee name here. So I'm going to bring in my employee name, and this is just me testing out if this updates. Does it? Yes, it does. Okay, that's good. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to align it to, if you think about it, we want to align this to the second interview, so the second interview date and the second interview outcome. So these first interview dates are all within that time frame. Second interview date is all before 26th of July. Okay. And it looks like some of these actually were after that consultation end as well. To double check that this is actually right, we obviously want to double check this as well. We want to make sure. Yeah, okay. So if we click on, say, pay policy, that's consultation 2. Always got to audit your numbers, right? And Power BI can spit out lots of things that can be wrong and you don't realize, and so you just have to be really, really, really careful. Okay, so this doesn't. So health was the third one. Maybe we should try and order these. So this was the first one. Working hours was 1, right? So you see here that the consultation end date was 15th of February, but it looks like we actually had some interviews which were after. So I guess the interesting thing that we want to show here, right, is we want to show that there was some improvement here based on outcome, right? I guess that's what we're trying to show. So I'm trying to think. Okay, how can we represent this really, really well? This particular filter here on region doesn't really do us justice. So if I turn this to, say, employee position, maybe that's actually going to be of a bit more value to us. So I think what we're trying to show here is, as we click through each consultation, we want to see details about the consultation, when the period was, but then also have a look at performance. Like, did someone go from happy to unhappy to happy, or happy to unhappy, or did we see some trend there? And then maybe what we also want to have a look at is, what were the trends per interviewer? So that would be an interesting thing to understand as well, right? And was there better outcomes for specific interviewers over time, or for specific consultations? And so some really quite interesting things there. But basically, I think what we need to do is visually be able to show the performance of one to the next. And I think we can use some conditional formatting within a table to actually do this pretty well. I think that's what we can do. So that's what I think we'll aim to do here. Okay. So we need to account, I think, for when nothing is selected. So we do need to basically say, well, if we're looking at a visualization here, well, we're actually looking at all of these specific consultations. What I want to do, I want to see how many different types of outcomes do we have. So we've got neutral, unhappy, and happy. Is there only 3? So neutral, unhappy, happy, neutral, unhappy, happy. Okay. So I'm going to just do something initial here that might help us, right? I'm going to come into the paint roller, okay, and I'm going to go to conditional formatting, and then I'm going to go to this is some great features that can really make things look great within a Power BI report, right? These conditional formattings, this is relatively new, but enables you to do some pretty cool things. So I'm going to background color. So you see it automatically comes up. And what I can do is I can create some rules, or I can do field value. No, I'm going to create a rule based on the outcome. Okay, based on the outcome. It's only letting me do numbers. Okay, so probably what I need to do is I need to align some numbers to these outcomes. Okay, so you're basically hearing me think aloud here, right? I'm just trying to think, okay, how can I showcase this really, really well? And I'm thinking that a table here is probably sufficient for this part anyway. What we probably want to do is show, okay, maybe unhappy would be like a darker red or something like that, and happy would be a brighter color, and neutral would be a sort of a neutral color. And I want to be able to sort of visually want to see it. And then we could create some sort of summary down here as well that looks through and tries to find down here all of the improved outcomes and all of the ones that didn't improve, those sort of things. Okay, so how are we going to do this? It doesn't look like I can. I'm sure I probably can. Let's go here. Let's go to this drop down, conditional formatting, background color. Okay, let's have a look. So field value. So I'm gonna find first outcome here. applies to that is not what I want. Remove conditional formatting. So maybe what I need to do, so this is what I think I need to actually create a formula. I'm going to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say first, sorry about that noise if you're hearing that, interview outcome, first outcome. And I'm going to go switch. Basically, this is just me turning a text value into a number, and then we can use this measure within our conditional formatting. So I'm going to say if selected value first interview outcome is equal to let's say unhappy, when it's equal 1. Okay, and then I'm just going to copy this down twice. Neutral. And then I'm going to put happy here. Then we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this measure is just landed in here, so I'm going to move it. Home table to key measures. Okay, now let's try the conditional formatting. See if we can make it work. So I'll just come in here and we'll go conditional formatting of the first employee outcome, background color. Okay, now we can go to rules and we can find the first outcome. Okay, so if the number is equal to, say, 1, well then we want the background color to, these colors, we're going to improve these shortly, but let's just say, okay, let's just say this is going to be red, new rule. If it is 2, then we want it to be, say, we'll say orange, and then if it's 3, we want it to be, let's go with this blue. Okay. Aha, cool. Okay, so now that is looking pretty sharp, right? And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy this measure. We'll change the palette very, very soon. And then we'll call this one second outcome. And then just change this here. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same thing again. So we're going to come here and go second interview outcome, and go rules. This is a great feature, by the way. If you're not using it, definitely, it sort of just brings in brand new elements that you can create to your reporting. And I'm just going to just do this again. 1, 2. Okay, so quite quickly we've been able to visualize what's actually happening here, right? Okay, what we're going to do now, I'm gonna create a color palette, and I'm going to show you how we can create it, because this is starting to come together, and I'm starting to think that our visualization does not even need to be that intense, right? It can be relatively straightforward, because if we come back to the challenge itself, it says, we're looking to report back to the executives around the outcomes of these interviews and what the reception was towards a consultation. He's also keen to establish the change of outcomes between the two interviews and any other metrics you feel are key to this report. So we are answering a lot of those things with something this simple, right? So we can say there was a consultation on pay policy. Visually we can see these changes all happening, right? There's still some elements that we probably want to add here. No denying that. We probably want to add things around the interviewer, so sort of see like how the interviewer handled things, and I think we can do that. The thing that I think we will probably be able to work out is what was the difference, and we'll create sort of like a metric for that. Like if someone went from happy to unhappy, well, maybe we need to say, okay, well that's obviously bad. So something's gone on there, and we need to understand, okay, well, what position, what sort of position was this employee in, and who is the interviewer on each side, and then we can maybe try and identify some trends around the interviewers. Are they the main reason why we're getting poor outcomes? Okay, but the first thing I want to do is I'm going to try and change our color theme, right? And we're going to use the Analyst Hub to do that. This is our new application that we're developing. Okay, and so what I want to do, I'm going to come to the Analyst Hub. So if you didn't realize, we're developing what we're now calling the Analyst Hub. And so we started off with just a few tools, including the DAX CleanUp, and now we are building things out here quite considerably, right? So we've got our Enterprise DNA bot is now embedded into the Analyst Hub, right? And so say, for instance, I'm just going to go hi Edna, events in progress, right? So say I wanted to learn about the events in progress pattern. I can type that in, and it doesn't actually look like Edna actually recognize the right answer there, which isn't great. I'll have to talk with the team to work out why that is. But basically, it's just taking us to events here. So we're always trying to improve Edna, but obviously it can help you with lots of things. Like, say you want to learn something about top N or something like that. There's lots of information. Calculate table, right? You can find out navigate to a lot of our key information. But what I want to show you here is this. I want to show you our color theme generator. Okay, so this is again in the Analyst Hub, and say I want to create a theme from here. I really like this fan, right? And so I'm just going to click through here. I don't really like red as a color. See, I quite like this color. This is quite nice. And I could see how that would look really good within this report. So you've got to remember as well, if you come to our showcases page, you can get a lot of inspiration around what you can do within your Power BI reports here. So lots of different reports that you could have a look at and basically copy. Just honestly, if you're stuck with ideas, use these as inspiration for some of the development that you might do. Another thing you can do is you can come to our knowledge base, which is at info.enterprisedna.co, and we've got a number of cool things that we've built into our knowledge base. But one of the things we do have, which I think is quite great, is this report design inspiration. So this is actually just ideas around report design from lots of different areas, right? So even from past challenges, we've got some cool things, but also even just like PDF reports that I've found over time, which are really, really interesting and could be copied into, say, a Power BI report. Like, for example, this design here is simple, it's simple and cool. So I quite like it, but we've got a bit more data in tables, don't we? So we've got to have a think about how we're going to manage that. So okay, let's jump back. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to I think I'm just going to go for it here without trying to copy one of these. In this case, we'll just see where we get to. The first things first is we've got to create a palette. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, and what you can do is you can actually bring this around, and I usually start with like a darker color. And so as you actually turn this wheel like so, you'll see that actually this middle one changes. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I need about 8 colors, I think. So if I come in here and I come to customize current theme, right? We need about, what is it, 8 colors. We need 8 colors from dark to light. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is this. I'm going to, maybe I'll actually start lighter. I'll start on the lighter side. So I'll start down here, and you see here that this particular hex code is represented in this middle one. What we are trying to do is we're going to actually build these out so there's actually more. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to say go to this color, and you'll have, say, 8 colors already laid out for you. You can just go copy, 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 copy. But at the moment we've only got 5, so I want to make sure that I can pick up at least 8 from going around here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, and sorry, this just be a bit of work to set this all up. Customize current theme. I'm just going to come in here and paste these over. Now I'll just move this to the side. Right, and I'll move this up like so. Copy that. Let's skip 2. So this is a tool that I use all the time now. It is seriously a great tool for creating consistent color palettes. And this is not the only one that you can use. You can use some of the other ones we've built as well to create color palettes, like using an image as well, or our other color palette one that we have. Can't remember what we call it just at this second. Okay, so we've got kind of like a darkish blue, which I quite like. Okay. Now, one thing that I'm thinking about here is how are we going to, this is just one thing in the back of my mind as I work through this, is how are we going to bring these interviewers into it, right? Like my thinking is that maybe we want to have, like here, we want to have this sort of like as a drop down, like so. But the thing that I think is a bit of an issue is that we have inactive relationships in our model here, and this might cause us a bit of a problem, right? There's no way for us, I can't think of a way to turn these on, because the thing is we don't actually have any calculations. Like there basically is no formula in this particular table. And so my thinking is here is we want to be able to say, okay, well, say I want to look at only Catherine's interviews where she's the first interviewer, and then I only want to see Catherine's interviews from a pay policy perspective, and then I want to see how that performance was for Catherine, regardless of who was the second interviewer. But maybe I want to also compare when Catherine was the first and when say Jessie was the second. But I can't do that with our current model setup. And so basically what I think we need to do is something a little bit tricky here, where we actually need to create 2 interviewers tables. We basically want to duplicate this table and have 2 active relationships, one down to the first interviewer ID and then one down to the second interviewer ID, and then we can isolate these quite easily where we've got interviewer 1 and interviewer 2. Okay, so let's do that. This should not be too difficult, and because of the way our model is set out, it should be no problem at all. And then, so I guess I've realized here we probably didn't even need all these steps really as well, because we could then break it down, interviewer 1, interviewer 2. So interesting, right? Interesting, very, very interesting. We probably don't even need this, so let's delete it. Let's actually get rid of it. Let's get rid of this whole thing that we did, right? We don't actually need this, and this is absolutely fine. You know, we've set this up in a way that we can easily iterate on this, like so easy. And I love, you know, wherever we can make our models more simpler, you know, the better for us. Okay, and so what I probably need to do here though is I've deleted too many of these columns, right? So we might have to start again just to get, so I'm going to duplicate this here. Okay, and then I'm going to call this one interviewer 1, or I'll call this first interviewer. Okay, and then I can come along here, remove other columns, remove duplicates, and then I'm going to do it again. Duplicate, second interviewer, and then I want to remove other columns and remove duplicates as well. Okay, and then we can again go back and get rid of all of these columns we don't need. So I can get rid of those columns there. Consultation name, start date, end date, don't need that. Because remember, this is our fact table, right? First interviewer name I don't need, and second interviewer name I don't need as well. So remove columns. Okay, so let's close and apply. So we're just again optimizing our model here. There'll be a few errors that will come up, but that's all right. We'll fix those up very, very quickly. That is no problem at all. We just need to come back here and just change these up. See here, that's what really interests me here is that we haven't had to actually create too many measures at all, and I think we're going to be able to create something quite nice here, quite compelling. So I've got first interview and second interview, and so you'll see here that now these are active relationships, right? Okay, and now it makes what we're doing within our visualization much easier now. So if I come back here and I grab my first interviewer name and I turn this into a slicer, and I'll turn this into a drop down as well. Right, so I've got my first interviewer name, and it's because of the way I've set up the model, it's really easy for me to visualize what's actually going to happen when I go, and you see here that everything that happens. I mean, even these inactive relationships here. I mean, do we really even? I didn't even know if we need these. Quite honestly, maybe we do, because we still want to actually, maybe we want to visualize this in a slightly different way. I'm not sure. It just sort of depends. So I got first interviewer name there, and we'll put our second interviewer name there. Right. And okay, so say for instance I want to see all of the interviews where, say, let's have a look, where Catherine was the second interviewer. Okay, so now I can see, okay, well, how many people in the second interview were unhappy versus, and then have a look and compare them and contrast them versus those who were what they were in the first one. But say I wanted to compare, okay, who was Carol on the first interview and Catherine on the second, I can see that as well, and we can sort of see what outcomes we had there. Say we then want to have a look at it by employee position as well for those specific campaigns or consultations. We can do that too. And so you see here that we can also drill. So you can really drill down now, and this is what ultimately I think is great about this particular analysis is we can really drill down into the insights pretty quickly. Okay, let's do a little bit of cleanup visually here, okay, to work with our new theme that we've got. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's go a darker color here in the background. Okay, so as you know, I like to have sort of darker backgrounds, and then you can make the actual data stand out a lot more if you make things white. This is just a look that I have, which I like. It's not something that you have to do at all. One thing to note is that it's good to actually place, even in the visuals themselves, place the background as the darker color which is in your actual background, because when we push this when you actually expand things like this, you want to be able to see the darker background, because if you don't have the darker background, what will happen is this will be white, and then you're ultimately going to have white writing as well. So if we come here and I turn this over to white, it's going to start to stand out a lot better very quickly. Data labels. Probably get rid of the legend, can't I? Yeah, I think that looks a bit better, doesn't it? Then we can come here, can already select these. Style, none. Then we want to make these values white. Okay. Slicer header, we want this to be white as well. Items, we want this to be, let's go like that. Okay, and we probably also want to change the conditional formatting here as well, I would say. So we want to go, let's just quickly change, let's go and quickly change this so that it works with our new palette that we've got. So we probably just want to go from you know, a darker color here to a lighter color eventually. And then we'll go to the second outcome. So it all starts coming together quite quickly, doesn't it, when you actually work away at it like this. Maybe you want to make those stand out a little bit more surely, but that's okay. We can figure that out. Column headers. So I'm going to go for a really darker. No, I'm going to go for a lighter one, I think. So that looks quite nice. Just going to change this up a little bit. So shape. Okay, starting to come together. I think we probably still want to do something about this information here, right? I can also get rid of the total out of here. We don't really need that. Is a consultation ID really that helpful? Who knows? Who knows? So I think I'm just trying to visualize here basically just trying to think of a visualization also that somehow showcases over time what the outcomes are. So maybe down the bottom here we want to, or down the bottom throughout the whole of this report page, we want to show the outcomes on a timeline, right? And then we want to say, okay, well, here was interview 1, and then show interview 2 as well, and show what the outcomes were there also. And then we want the ability to, again, to be able to sort of drill into, say, we want to be able to show all, but then also show, for a specific consultation as well. We want to see the timeline of that. We might want to also change by sort of interviewer, and we just want to, I think, an easier visualization to show all of these things across a time horizon, right? And so the way to think, we still have, if we come back to our model here, we still have 2 inactive relationships, one on the second interview date and the first interview date, right? So we have these inactive relationships which we can turn on with our with a formula, use relationship. But I'm just trying to think, how would we actually showcase this? Because it's not like there's a number, right? It's not like we're calculating up like a sales amount or transactions or quantity. It's just one of three outcomes, right? And so I'm trying to think, how would this look? How can we make this look good? I'm trying to think. So we would have time down here, and we would have, say, neutral could be 1, and say happy could be 2, or unhappy could be -1 or something like that. Just not sure. I mean, we've got our measures here, right? We've got our measures here. So I mean, we could just try it out. Let's just play around and see what we can come up with. So I'll just create a new page just as we play around with it. So what I'll do, it's basically just how do we represent this key thing that they're looking for, even better than this particular table, right? Because we can see individuals here, but what about trends? It's hard for us to identify trends when we're just looking at something like in a table like that, even though the granular information we can get is great. So I'm going to create this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say first outcome. Okay, and I'm going to go calculate first. I'll just zoom in for you. First outcome, and then I'm going to go use relationship, and I'm going to go date with the consultation, the first interview date. Okay, so basically all this is doing is it's turning on the relationship so that we can see, okay, well, what would this number be? So I'll turn this into it's because this isn't actually showing. This is not actually showing us anything. Okay, what can we do here? What can we do? I'm a little bit stuck. Maybe what we'll do is we'll move on, and we'll. I'll maybe. I don't want to just spend too much time here, because some of these things I have to have a good think about and have a play around, and I feel like it could take a little bit too long. And I know this video is already quite long, right? So I'm just going to first of all just make a few updates here, and then what I'll do is I'll make sure to reference to my completed report, which will be in which I'll place into the Power BI challenge, right? And you'll be able to see in the Power BI challenge my submission and all the others who have submitted as well. So I'll just put I'm just going to create a title here, HR Data Insights. We'll keep going. I won't stop just yet. So we'll actually go a larger size of this one. Okay. Because I also thought what we could possibly do which would look quite nice as well, is here, create some sort of nice visualization up here which kind of shows you when all of these consultations were, but sort of more like on a timeline. And so I'm just trying to think of a customized visualization we could create for that as well. And so none of these are sort of like core calculations. They're all quite unique calculations. But I think this is what's going to finish it off, is that I want to find something to sort of go in here to represent these on a timeline when they actually occurred. And then I want a visualization all the way down the bottom here, which sort of visually shows what's actually going on in here with these particular results in a much better visual way. Maybe also we might have some sort of just like key numbers here maybe as well. That could be another thing to consider. Maybe like having some cards with some numbers, like how many happy, how many unhappy. The sort of an outline of that. So that's basically what we've got to do to finish this, which is great. So there's not a huge amount more we need to do. One of the other things I might do just to clean it up here is I'm going to insert a shape here, a rectangle. Just get a sort of different, slightly different color down here. Or is that what we want? Maybe we could do something a little bit different. Maybe we can actually do different colors like this. This is another way that you can do it. Let's try something a little bit different, because I guess here is where we're going to have a summary of. Let's try this, eh? Let's try this. Let's give this a go. Just do something a little bit different. So we want to take that off and put the background on. Okay, and then we want to get rid of the line. And then we want to push this to the back. Format, send to the back. Okay, so obviously we'll need to change the background colors here as well, but let's just quickly do that and see what it looks like. You know, a lot of visualization work is just a lot of trial and error, right? And I just think creating good visualizations is so important. Apologize if you occasionally hearing some drilling there. It's just not something I can control at the moment. It's just obviously they're doing something in our building. Well, there's a lot of construction around my building at the moment actually. Okay, let's just get the right colors here. What color is this? So is it this color? Okay, so it's that color there. Let's just fix this up. I think I'm gonna have to make it a bit darker, but that's all right. We'll have a play around with some colors here first. Format, I'll push this to the back. So I'll just clean this up here. So basically we've got a nice contrast of colors. That's what we're aiming for here. I could maybe also grab an image here. I'm going to grab an image that I have in my files here. I think these always add a good contrast to your visualizations. Okay, so it's starting to come together, I think. Maybe another one, just thinking aloud, what we could do here is we could add an employee drop down here too. So you see, I'm not actually doing anything terribly difficult here, right? A big part of it was the model, and you see here how I've been able to use the model really effectively to highlight a lot of these things, right? And so you can see here, if I want to look at a specific employee, I can now see how they reacted over time. Now the final thing I've got to do, right, is I've just got to maybe have a think about how I can show a timeline here and a bit of a timeline here. And maybe also we want to be able to flick between, just be able to see who's happy and who's not unhappy. And then maybe those are some people that we can approach within our organization to see, if there's anything we can do. Okay, so there's a few. I'll just keep going here. Hopefully you're still with me. One thing I recommend, honestly, if you feel like these go on a little bit too long, is speed up the video. I sometimes actually do that on YouTube quite a bit, or just generally anywhere I'm watching a video, and I find that I can easily cope with a faster video speed. Okay, so I'll just let's change these colors a little bit. Let's contrast these just a little bit better, I think. Okay. Okay. So how can we in a line here showcase when these actually were? Well, we did actually have that events in progress pattern, didn't we? So I wonder if we can create a nice visualization out of that. Okay, let's give it a go. Let's give it another go. So I'm just going to come back to in here. I'm going to go to DAX patterns, and I'm going to go to events in progress. See, there's lots of examples here, and I can just grab it like this. And obviously we're going to make some changes to it, but that's fine. I'm going to go add this in here. Okay. You can leave all of that text in there if you want, no problem at all. But it's a bit too much for me. Oh, I didn't copy it all. Okay, so we've got, what have we got here? What are we trying to do? We're trying to find the consultation start date. Right, consultation start date. It's because it's in it's in the it's not even actually in that particular table anymore. That's interesting. Okay. Let's have a think through. Basically, what I want to do. Let's just go into it. Let's just jump into it. What I want to do, I want to basically have a line up here. See, it's come down the bottom there. To rotation is 180. No, it's 90 degrees. So what would be nice up here is if we sort of just had a timeline of when these particular consultations were, right? And it was sort of like automatically created based on whatever consultations you had, and it automatically did from 4th of Feb to 15th of Feb and on this particular line. And so how would we do that? I think there possibly is a way, but okay, well, I'll just put a placeholder there for now. You know my vision there. I might have to go away and figure it out later on. Then my vision for down the bottom there is, okay, how can we visualize all these happies and neutrals and unhappies, and then how can we visualize them for the second interview, right? And then obviously we might need to break them down by consultation name too. Okay, so this is I'm just trying to think here what kind of visual, and it has to align with dates somehow. Okay, so we need to somehow show all of our different dates that we have. Let's see if this does anything. No, so this doesn't show anything at the moment, because we're trying to think, okay, we've got a timeline of when the first interview happened and the second interview happened. Maybe some of you are shouting at the screen, able to figure it out already, but I can't seem to picture it right at this moment. Consultation outcomes. Maybe if we could count up how many employees were unhappy at any particular time and how many were not happy, and we could show that as a accumulation, so we can kind of get the vibe of it. Interesting. So how would we do it? That is the question. Okay, what I'm going to do, I probably need to just have a bit more of a think about this, but I think we've got the makings of a pretty spectacular challenge submission here, right? What can we do so far? We can, based on the model that we've created, I'm thinking I'm going to round things off here, and then I'm going to finish this off in my own time, because what we've been going for just over an hour and a half, I think, and we've come so far. We've really optimized things immensely, and we can now dive into any consultation. We can get a visual over, and maybe I can improve these colors as well. We can get a visual over how any employee went on the very first interview and how they went on the second interview. We can also dive into specific interviewers and see how they performed within specific consultations, right? And we can also change up, by just looking at an employee by themselves. That employee wasn't interviewed by Jesse, but we can have a look at that employee by themselves if we really want to. We can look at how they went over this over time, and so all of this great insight, right, has been made possible by the work that we've done up here. But there's more that we can do. We can dive into different employee positions. We could also dive into different regions if we wanted to, but I didn't think that actually provided a huge amount of insight. Maybe that's another layer of a filter we could create. But I think what we're basically trying to do is just visually just showcase a few more things. Like we want to just showcase some like a pulse of what's actually happening better, right? We can kind of see like how things have gone in this table, but I think there's a visual to be had here that can try and represent this better. And that's basically the last thing that I'm going to try and create before I go and submit my report into the challenge. Okay, so just to round things off, if you want to participate in the challenge, definitely jump to the forum and find Power BI Challenge 3 HR Data Insights. Maybe you've got some other ideas around how you would showcase this. And just get involved. We're expecting I don't know, close to maybe 50 people to be in the challenge, and there's great prizes to be won as well. if I just jump to about the Power BI challenges. So if you actually take out each individual challenge, we will showcase your report across all of our enterprise DNA properties, including the YouTube channel. We will give you a complimentary membership as well. You'll be able to collaborate with everyone in the challenge. The threads for each different challenge can become quite substantial because everyone's just throwing in their ideas around how you can improve, or was it good or not, so on and so forth. And so look, there's lots of other just sort of key benefits around just connections to other expert Power BI users. So definitely worthwhile having a deeper look at that. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in to this sort of new style of video for the Power BI challenge. But I really enjoy it. I mean, I love just talking through my thoughts. I mean, sometimes you can't nail things all within when you're just going all out live, when you're just trying to record all in one go. But I have a vision here, and I just think I need to think a little bit deeper about how I'm going to actually make it work. And if I do come up with something quite compelling, I will definitely share it in another video, but I'll also share it in my submission, and you can check it out there too. Okay, so thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to doing more of these in the near future. Don't forget to subscribe to Enterprise DNA TV if you haven't already, and look forward to producing more of this stuff in the near future. Okay, all the best.